Hello, I'm Nima Rajan. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says a federal wage subsidy for employees of businesses that have been hit hard by COVID-19 will last at least till the end of August. The subsidy was set to expire in the first week of June. The Prime Minister says the idea is to give employers more runway and confidence to resume operations slowly if they have to. Finance Minister Bill Morneau is to reveal details of a broadening of the program shortly. Outgoing Conservative leader Andrew Scheer's time is slowly coming to an end, with his party's leadership race hitting a milestone today. Anyone planning to cast a ballot for the Conservatives' new leader has to be a registered party member by midnight. The vote itself will take place over the summer by mail, with all ballots required to be returned by August 21st. 4 candidates are in the running: Leslyn Lewis, Peter MacKay, Aaron O'Toole, and Derek Sloan. The Canadian telecom companies say demand for their services has surged during the COVID-19 pandemic. Rogers Communications told a House of Commons committee yesterday that home internet usage is up by more than 50%. TELUS says the novel coronavirus exposed how important connectivity is to all Canadians, with the Vancouver-based company consistently experiencing 4 times the network traffic of its busiest day pre-COVID-19. Cogeco Communications says there has been a 60% greater use of internet service during the day. Experts say the COVID-19 pandemic has added an extra layer to the grieving process, with families unable to comfort dying loved ones at their bedsides and restrictions preventing them from consoling one another at funerals. Psychologists, social workers, and researchers concerned about the long-term impact of grief have formed the Canadian Grief Alliance, which is asking the federal government for $100 million in community grief programs. Shelley Kaur, the head of the Canadian Virtual Hospice, says grief has become complex during the pandemic, and many isolated people need to connect with a grief counselor, even if it's just over the phone. Observers say a second outbreak of COVID-19 at an oil sands mine work camp in northern Alberta is concerning. Gil McGowan, who's the president of the Alberta Federation of Labour, says the province is relying too much on self-inspection and is slow to take action despite recent outbreaks at meatpacking plants. But he didn't suggest the province shut the work camps down. McGowan says officials should instead put an end to fly-in, fly-out staffing at the camps, noting that there are enough people in Alberta to do the work. Well, cities across Canada are allowing the Muslim call to prayer, or adhan, to be heard during the holy month of Ramadan for the first time. Usually, the musical chant that ushers Muslims into their house of worship for prayer is prohibited under city noise bylaws. But Ottawa, Toronto, Hamilton, London, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and other major cities have all made exemptions to the usual rules because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Hereditary chiefs of the Sweatin Nation say a new agreement with the federal and provincial governments will help relations moving forward. The nation, the province, and the federal government signed a memorandum of understanding Thursday, recognizing the nation's rights and title. But the agreement does not address their opposition to the Coastal GasLink pipeline project. The nation's elected chiefs say they do not consider the agreement valid and say they were shut out of the negotiating process. In the U.S., the Democratic-controlled House is pressing ahead with votes on another massive rescue bill. The bill would pump almost $1 trillion U.S. to states and local governments, renew $1,200 cash payments for individuals, and extend a $600 weekly supplemental federal unemployment benefit. The measure could cost over $3 trillion and looks to pass largely along party lines. Health officials in the U.S. are warning about the potential accuracy problems with a rapid test for COVID-19. The 15-minute test from Abbott Laboratories has been distributed to thousands of testing sites across the country and is used daily at the White House. The Food and Drug Administration says it is investigating early data suggesting Abbott's ID Now test can miss COVID-19 cases that were caught by rival tests. Authorities have reported the first coronavirus case in the crowded camps for Rohingya refugees in southern Bangladesh. More than 1 million refugees from Myanmar are sheltered in the camps. Aid workers have been warning that tackling any outbreak could be a daunting task in the crowded camps. Bangladesh and the UN Refugee Agency say the infected person and a second local resident in the district have been isolated. Investigators are working to trace their contacts and quarantine, as well as test others. Bangladesh has more than 18,000 cases of the virus. Meanwhile, years of conflict, instability, and poverty have left Somalia ill-equipped to handle a health crisis like COVID-19. No one really knows how many cases the country has. This uncertainty has led to fear, confusion, and panic, even as authorities try to keep the public informed. Officially, Somalia has recorded more than 1,200 cases and 53 deaths. But some aid groups warn that those figures could be too low in a country with one of the world's weakest healthcare systems. Well, about 100 infants born to surrogate mothers in Ukraine are separated from their foreign parents because of the country's COVID-19 border closure. The country's human rights ombudswoman has appealed to authorities for help, citing concerns that the closure will place a burden on clinics and cause stress for parents. Ukraine has a thriving surrogate industry and is one of the few countries that allows the service for foreigners. Well, that'll do it for today's news update. I'm Nima Rajan. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.